All right, maybe we should start. You want to... Good afternoon and welcome to this panel on what we think from ACAPS side is a hugely exciting project we've been working on with SOPHIA. AI we've developed to help us carry out some of the more basic tasks in the collection of the data sets we produce on a regular basis. My name is Lars Peter Nissen. I'm the director of ACAPS, and today I'm joined by Leith Baker, who's the lead advisor in VHA in a team called DDAIM, I think. But really what Leith is he's one of our most effective and strategic donors to ACAPS. The great thing about working with VHA and Leith is that we talk strategy and what we really want to achieve, and then they give us some money and then we try to do. So it's a very effective relationship, and SOPHIA has been funded by VHA. Also, we have Jeppe Barszewski, is our team lead for the data analytics team. Jeppe has been leading the development of SOPHIA internally at ACAPS together with Nick. They have done a great job. Started in early 23, and I've been impressed with how quickly it has actually developed. Before we jump into a description of what we're doing, I'd like to just invite Leith to just, if you want to say a few words around where does SOPHIA fit into, or this project fit into VHA's overall approach to AI and thinking about.
Absolutely. Thanks, Lars Peter, and thanks everybody for coming. At first, I just want to call out the work by ACAPS to leave us the breadcrumbs to find the room here. I've spent a lot of time trying to find rooms, and I just thought that's the kind of practical sort of humanitarian solutions that we're looking for. So congratulations on that.
Which reminds me, I forgot to introduce Daniel Ayo, who's in the comms team, and the excellent work that the comms team are doing in terms of enabling. You will see.
That's great.
See close around the shop.
Yeah, when ACAPS reached out and said, would you mind saying just a couple of words to open their demo, I was really excited because this is a space where we see just tremendous opportunity, but also sort of uncertainty. The future is unclear. The use case for AI in humanitarian situational awareness and needs analysis seems pretty clear. There's tremendous opportunity to sort of pre-process and ingest data sets and unstructured data and PDFs and whatnot. There's opportunities to use generative AI to summarize and create reports, that sort of thing. We have a number of partners, and I see them here. The OCHA Center for Humanitarian Data here, DFS is here. There's a number of partners of ours who are exploring this space and developing tools. I see OCHA's relief webs in the room. So we see a number of our partners kind of exploring this space. We're excited. A lot of it's been demoed here at HNPW, and I think there's a great opportunity for everybody to kind of meet each other. One of our questions is, we've proved the case, like it'll do it, and we're going to see some great results. We're curious now, what's the future state? We'd love to have a conversation afterwards a little bit about what's the mature state of all of this. Is this a technology that every humanitarian agency is going to have? They're going to have their own team to develop these tools, or is it something that a few organizations are going to kind of do on behalf of others? Are they technologies that are going to allow the big rich organizations to become very sort of strong, dominant, and powerful, or is it a technology that's going to allow localization and small organizations to sort of do more and engage with us in policy and things like that in new ways? I don't know, and I think we need to think about that. And I think this demo is a great opportunity to see the progress that ACAPS has made, but also sort of reflect on what it means for this technology and in humanitarian needs analysis. So just a couple of words here. Very excited. Back over to you guys to
Thank you. Yeah, and I think that's exactly the right framing. Actually, when Jeppe first came and said, I want to brand this thing, what should we call it?
Yeah.
I was a bit hesitant. Do we want to call it something? Right now it's called SOPHIA. Lovely name. But can we kill SOPHIA? Right? It's an experiment. AI is moving so quickly that we don't know whether we in 2 months will have something developed by the companies that invest trillions of dollars in this. That's 10 times better than what we have. And so it's a real balance between being extremely proud of the work that has been done. I think it's awesome and cool, and at the same time keep on pushing ourselves and thinking the question, are we hitting it right? Right? Are we, the questions you raised, Lisa, around where are we going strategically? So I hope once we've shown you what we got and so on, that we can have a conversation about not just SOPHIA, but also AI, where are we? And so a broader strategic discussion. And I'd like to kick that off by just sharing with you quickly the 6 principles we have for experimenting with AI internally in ACAPS. We were very excited about this technology when it really became the new black. But we could also see that there's some really potential downsides with it. So we thought, how do we think about what we do and what we don't do? So we don't start with the solution, we start with the problem. We use the tool because it adds to our work, not because it exists. And so it's really about being very user-centered in our thinking and looking at the value added, not at the new shiny thing we can develop. We want to not be driven by the tool, but by our operational needs. Ethical standards. There are obvious, massive ethical issues around the use of AI, and how will it change the way we contribute to shaping the humanitarian narrative? We have to be really clear on that. We don't use an AI as the last link in the chain. We will always have a human going through our normal editorial and quality assurance processes. So we don't believe we want to go on autopilot with the risk of hallucinating. AI is distorting what we do. And we remain highly critical, continuously assessing the reliability of the information that comes in. We've all seen plenty of examples of biases coming out in AI. So how do we ensure that we don't fall into those? Scroll down from 6, partnering. When we partner with others, and I think obviously this is not something we can do by ourselves, we need to ensure that we are aligned on the ethical side and these principles with our colleagues. So that was just a quick first take. We developed these very quickly to just have some level of guidance and some things will help us think through what we can and what we can't. That's all from my side. I will hand it over to you.
Thank you, Lars Peter, and thank you for the intro. And thank you everyone for coming. It's nice to have you here. We are really excited that you join us today. We appreciate the time you spent on this journey that we will tell you about the SOPHIA. I know that many of you probably like to see the product, the tool that was advertised, but before that, we want to start with a couple of slides just to give you a bit of motivation and why we designed the product in the first place. And while I will be doing these slides, I hope you will see those principles that Lars Peter just outlined, even from the slide, because we really try to look at it less of a product, less of shiny AI thing, and more like through the user-centered paradigm of software development. Okay, so let's start that. So I assume many of you are familiar with what ACAPS is doing, but for those of you who don't know, ACAPS is the information service provider in the humanitarian sector. And broadly speaking, we have 2 sets of products. One is data sets, and the other one is analysis. And we have different flavors of those, right? We are doing informed severity index. We're implementing partner of that. We do humanitarian access data sets, we do semantic briefs reports, and the like. So many, many, many products. But all those products has at least one feature in common, which is scale of analysis. So if you look at our, it's not clicking. Oh, now it's clicking. If you look at the scale of the problem that we are dealing with, it's, 150 crises, approximately 150 crises worldwide, sometimes more, sometimes less, 100+ countries to be monitored. And again, we are NGO, right? So we don't have a lot of resources to dedicate a person per crisis. So we have a relatively small team that try to do its best. The team of analysts who monitor the crisis daily. And if you look at this, we have like at least 8 countries on average with 2 crises to monitor on a daily basis. What this means is, as you might imagine, that there is so many information, so vast share of data, sheer volume of data we have to track on, that 80% of time our analysts are spending is mostly information hunting. to find the information that we need first. And of course, information hunting, you don't always succeed with that. So it leads to information biases. So sometimes you might have a data point that was missing in the important document that was just published. And we did interview with users, as Lars Peter said. Whenever we're doing this, we try to be user-centered. So we did what we call discovery phase, when we literally go and interview every, not every, but most of the users or analysts at ACAPS. And this is what we heard from them. So we heard that, it's time consuming to find stuff. You spend a long document, spend 45 minutes, and then, didn't find anything relevant in this. Some people are extracting indicators, and helping with that also a bit challenging. So this was the first challenge. How do we keep abreast with these developments that are happening in the information ecosystem? The second challenge is how do we truly understand the local context? Because as you quite imagine, knowing all languages is pretty hard, right? In our case, mostly analysts will know English. And there are two layers of challenges here. The first layer is how do we deep dive into the local context of the crises, especially the conflict ones, right? There are countries where multiple dialects, multiple languages are used. But before even diving into this level of problem, what we learned actually is even for high resource languages like Spanish and French, sometimes staff has a challenge with that as well, because maybe the staff members were substituting another staff members. So it's not like by default Spanish and French in the organization. And this is again lead to the challenge of information kind of bubble bias, and as well as spending time manually on doing the translation and stuff. And if you look at Relief Web, which is a popular one-stop shop for humanitarian data analysis these days, an important source of information, you'll see that Spanish, French, and other languages constitutes a relatively big fraction of information available on Relief Web. So, and this is what we heard from our analysts, right? Even stuff like I took my phone, switch on Google Translate, and translate the document. And of course, these days we have translation, but put yourself into the context of analysts who has to monitor multiple crises, who has to update data set daily, who has to do it, so many things together, then translating a 100-page document become a challenge. It's not that trivial to do. And after we do this discovery phase, we brainstorm internally and so how does technology step into this? How does technology could help us? And we come up with what we call Solutions Platform for Humanitarian Information Analysis, or SOPHIA, nicely shortly, which is, and SOPHIA has 3 features, could be described in 3 big themes. The first one is automatic data source update. So information comes at one place for you daily, and customized, personalized feed per analyst. So we really apply the user lenses. We try to create the system that is personalized per user needs, right? And the user needs will be different in different contexts within the ACAPS. The second point of SOPHIA is real-time translation of the many languages. So we have 70+ languages from scratch, but in ideal world, we can of course in the future increase the number of languages. And the last point is interactive data exploration with AI, which is a fancy thing. I will show a bit how does it work, and what does it mean in ACAPS. So we just finished development of SOPHIA beginning of April. So what we did, what we called the beta testing, where we took a small group of users and we showed the product to them. And this is what we heard, just sharing quickly the initial feedback, expressions from people who tested the product. And when we do at ACAPS, what Lars Peters was saying, we try also to evaluate the feedback, right? We try to evaluate that the technology that we are putting in place, there are standards, there are, baseline metrics, how to evaluate this technology, improving stuff, or maybe the technology actually makes stuff worse. So this is one of the metric points we used at the beta testing to see if SOPHIA really, deliver value to our users or to our analysts. This is, yeah. And overall, at this point of beta testing, we anticipate that SOPHIA will save us at least 25% of time on data collection from status as is, like before SOPHIA and with SOPHIA. Again, we are testing. I'll talk a bit about roadmap after demo the tool. So this is coming, but I think it's a good starting point to begin with. And with that said, I'll try. I know this tech demo is a bit challenging, so stuff stopped working and stuff. So I'll try to do my best, and I'll try to be very short in demoing the product before I wrap up with a couple of last slides, and we can start a discussion around it. Daniel, I'll start sharing the screen, right?
Yevhen has been watching videos of Steve Jobs for the past couple of weeks.
Yeah.
It's a journal.
Yeah. Okay, so I was thinking, you see Sophia? Okay, great. So I was thinking, how do I present this in 5 minutes and you guys not to get bored with it? And I thought the best way to do it is through the use case. One of the use case that I feel the partners will like. So when you first get into SOPHIA, one of the most important building principles is a fit. So what is fit? Let's say I'm a ACAPS analyst and I am in charge of monitoring Afghanistan to track data, collect data on severity index. And severity index is an important product, one of our major product at ACAPS that we do and that we release on a monthly basis. And one of the feedback that we hear from users is that sometimes like the data in the data sets, like these important indicators, like people in need, they might be updated with some, either delay or there's some important sources that could be factored into analysis was missed. So we hope that SOPHIA will help with that now, and I'll show you how. So let's say you go here, you go to the filters, you select Afghanistan, you select the type of the documents that you wanna add to your feed. Then you can also select the source that you would like to the feed. Let's say for severity index reach is important, maybe IOM would be considered as well. And then also we of course cannot do this without OCHA. So I can. It's very long name, guys. Oh, she's yeah. So, and then what I can do, I can say create feed. I can give a name to the feed, which will be Afghanistan severity index. And I create my feed. Once the feed is created, what is happening, and you can create, by the way, multiple feeds with multiple variations, so multiple parameters the way you want. I get daily updates in my feed that match, the selection criteria that I specified. And for example, here, I can see that, I can see the document itself. I can see the attachment because most of the documents, as you know, comes with PDF. And because we really thought about every aspect of SOPHIA, how to make it how to engage the productivity of analysts, you can see that it's built like PDFs, it's integrated, you don't need to download and do the stuff, and like that. So let's say you engage with this document. And again, these documents, once you engage with it, you see that the reading status is no longer bold. It's just for you to keep track on it. Let's say you engage with this document, and what we do for severity index, or we try to focus on some indicators like people in need. So let's say you found very important stuff like some metrics that you want to save. So you want to save this document to your favorites collection. So you can always do like that. You can say like that. You can say Afghanistan, and then you create a folder, and you add the document to your folder. Sorry. And then at any time point, you can always go to the collections of your documents, and you'll see it there. And this is what we are doing. Sounds like a very simple stuff, but this is what we learned from the users, right? One of the learning point was, how do we keep users, how do we keep track of all the documents we need in one place? We learned that users were using bookmarks, some users were using, downloading files of PDFs and stuff like that. So how do we make sure that the users know and stay connected with the analysis? So when it comes to the feed, you can build as many feeds as possible. And I know that there is this AI component, so let me just address this a bit before I wrap up with slides. So the idea with AI, the way we use it here is through this section called themes. So we are using AI to look through the documents and identify the key themes of the document so that the users can, cluster the documents by different humanitarian themes like information, landscape, in our case, access, protection, and so on and so forth. And in the future, one thing we can consider is to add more themes to this product. And that's the flow. Every feed gets a dedicated dashboard. So if you have 10 feeds, 15 feeds, 20 feeds, you get a dashboard that updates you with all the nice statistics of what was happening in your feed. And yeah, so basically that's the feed theme. You have this space where you can really set up what kind of documents you want to monitor every day, how these documents get to you. You can save the documents, the favorites collection. And yeah, and the last piece of things that we want to show you is AI search. And I think this is important because Lars Peter said about principles, and you know about this AI hallucination and stuff. So what we are trying to do now is to find and implement this in the most conservative way possible. So what we are doing here, if you wanna use AI search functionality, the way it works, you select a sample of documents that you'd like to have interaction with. And for example, this sample of documents can be documents in your favorites collection. So you select those documents, and then you start asking questions with real, like ChatGPT kind of questions with the prompts and stuff. But what we are doing here, we don't apply AI agent to the system. Basically what we are doing, we are looking into the documents and finding the most relevant text elements, text pieces that match your question. So the idea here is that we did an experiment at ACAPS where we have been overlaying AI agent and not overlaying AI agent, and we found out that AI still hallucinate, and we still cannot have like 100% trust in the system to put it in front of the humanitarian analyst community, because when we do the experiment, we saw those hallucinations, right? So it will be very tough for us to go ahead and implement it straight away. So what we decided is the following. We do it in the most conservative way possible, and we give time for the big companies like Microsoft, OpenAI to figure out how to deal with this hallucination stuff, because before we rush and just implement this blindly. So we try to find the balance. We hope that we did. And again, I think I don't want to, we can discuss it for more and more time. I just don't want to bore you guys with this. I'm happy to talk more about the interface, show you more things after the presentation. I just want to jump into the last 2-3 slides that I think are very important to share with you. And then we can start the discussion. Hopefully I stop. Do you mind going back to the presentation? Okay, yeah, the roadmap. So at ACAPS, we have the opportunity, I think the advantage or edge is we have a relatively big community of the users. So what we are planning to do with SOPHIA for the moment is to start internal testing product to see what's working well, what's not, and to make some strategic decisions around this and to implement the feedback. At the Q3 of the 2024, we were considering of adding more sources because right now SOPHIA is connected to Relief App only. We are thinking about how to add the stuff to make it more like a one-stop shop place from the source perspective, as well as adding 2 more themes. And depending on how this process will go, one thing we were also considering is to start thinking about how to share the product with humanitarian community. But this is something we want to be, ready for, because we really value our users, and we would like to have the capacity and instruments to support the users throughout this journey. For the moment, it was mostly a prototype way we developed SOPHIA, so It's an important thing at ACAPS, but at ACAPS we also value analysis. So a lot of resources we spend is dedicated to analysis, and for the moment. And yeah, so our model for SOPHIA is first software as a service, data as a service, because we believe that by having SOPHIA in place to help analysts to not miss the important stuff, our data sets will become more enriched with the relevant data points, and code as a service. The idea is because what we do is open source, so we will always share at important milestones, we will always share. We actually already share. You can find the first version of SOPHIA from the last year online. And the most important slide, last but not least, today I'm just presenting what the team achieved. This will not be possible without those wonderful colleagues of mine who help us to pass this journey up to this point. And I want to really thank you guys for this, for being together, and for helping us with this journey. And thank you, our partners, who has a trust and support in our journey as well. Thank you. And that's it. Open for discussion.
Thank you, Jim. And maybe let's go back to SOPHIA so we can use that as the questions come in. So what you see basically is an AI that's very carefully tailored around the use case we have in ACAPS. Analysts who are looking for specific numbers in unstructured data, and can we find a way of bringing that to the analyst quicker? You'll notice that we're being very careful, because basically what these analysts are doing is they produce a number between 1 and 5 every month. And that number is supposed to express the severity of a crisis. And that's quite a daunting task in itself. And so it's great we have this technology that can help reduce our time and so on. But once that number is out there, it's out there, and it becomes very sterile. You can't see how it was produced. And there is a danger, as Jim said, in terms of the AI hallucinating, distorting the results, and that's why we're being so careful. We will be very happy to have questions or comments from anybody online or in the room. The question is, how do we subscribe to SOPHIA? Does it work as an app in iPad and tablets?
Okay, so I'll start with the second one. For the moment, SOPHIA was developed as the desktop application, because again, we think that, at least we talked to the analysts and we learned that analysis is mostly done from the desktop environment and less from tablets and iPhones or phones, whatever. So we don't consider for the moment to develop the UI interface for mobile. Maybe something in the future we can reconsider. And in terms of the sign up, as I said, so there is this famous quote that was done by the founder of Evernote, and he said the following: when I look at the product, at the new product, I basically ask myself on the one thing, is it stupid or this is primitive? So what we want to do for the next couple of months is to learn the answer to this question. And really hope that this is primitive, because the primitive you can work with. You can, make a primitive more advanced, right? You can make it more useful and stuff. So that's why we don't rush into giving the sign up for SOPHIA right this moment. And I know that some other organizations are doing this. This is different business models, different resource capacities involved in this. So for the moment, what we want to do is to test the product internally to be ready for journey, because we would like to be there for you, and we will like to be ready for you. So for the moment, is it stupid or primitive? We'll keep you posted. I think at the end we'll share slides how you can sign up and stay informed on the SOPHIA process.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
Curious about cost, to per query, or how the queries are run, how your processing resources are, and how that corresponds to the kinds of analysis volume that you're pushing through.
Okay. I think that for the query question, I believe Nicholas will be better to respond to, but I can try to get the overarching cost of the product. The biggest part of cost is translation. By the way, I was rushing up. I forget to show you the translation. You can stay. I'll show you afterwards. I just don't want to give more time of yours for this discussion. So the bigger fraction, of course, is translation. It constitutes 80% of a pie chart, but the total cost is reasonable. So it's less than or around $500 to maintain the product on a monthly basis. And for the prompt and this stuff, because we don't use AI the way that other actors in the sector are exploring AI for the moment, I think the cost is relatively small. And Nicholas, if you can just help me with this because I know better.
Yes, so as Zhenya said, it's mostly translation that drives costs as of today. We're carefully monitoring storage as well. So far, so good. I would like to say it's a relatively small cost in relatively small part of the pie. And since we're not using or generating text from LLMs and only using the embedding process, that is also a way of keeping the costs low when we're working with AI in general.
Yeah, thank you. Bertrand from iMapping. Just a follow-up question on that. Is it currently pulling data directly from Relief Web through an API, or is it you already have like a set of documents already uploaded on your server? I'm asking because there will be a cost if you have, for example, to have the whole Relief Web on your server, or if you're pulling data. And as well, now, if you're only running it, few people in the lab, and then in the future, if you have thousands of humanitarians putting query on a single day, yeah, I'm just trying to understand the sustainability of the system on the long term once the development is done. Yeah.
So that's the great question of scaling and how to handle the cost as we scale. I'm personally not too worried about the querying process. The embedding itself of the query is really cheap. I was actually surprised by that. It's what will end up driving cost is the vector embeddings that we are storing from the documents that we pull from Relief Web. We choose what we are embedding. So some documents don't have PDFs. We embed only the summary. Some documents have the PDFs. We embed only the PDFs. And in terms of how we're going to look at keeping this cost in a manageable amount of storage, we're looking at a window of time, that look back window. So maybe, I don't know, I don't want to say anything here, but 2 years, 3 years, or year and a half, we'll see as we go.
So we pull the document from Relief Web to an API, and
Yes.
we store that document.
Yeah. Thank you, by the way, Relief Web, for your API. I see you.
Sandra.
Actually, really want to see the language demo, because that would have been one of my questions. I mean, how is it the translation?
Yeah, let me find some.
And also interesting on how is that information then stored in our search query, and if it goes through several documents and there might be in different languages, how is this kind of then being stored for the analyst to serve that part?
Sure. Let's take a couple of more
Yeah,
questions
okay.
while you get ready for the door down here. Yeah. Elias.
Yeah. So if I understood correctly, for now you have only one or very few sources that you target to get the information. What is the plan in the long term?
Okay. To take my question.
Yeah, let's just take behind them. So
Yeah, I think it was similar question regarding prevention web. Like now we are turning into like climate disasters linked with humanitarian, and prevention web have like 75,000 with similar applications. Might be relevant for humanitarian section. So do you plan also to extend it to this type of information?
thank you.
Yeah.
This is Miguel, Relief Web. So a couple of questions. You talked about the PDF. My question is if you process all the data from the PDFs, in which situations you do that, if you take the summary or the PDF, or when do you do each? The second one, you commented about that you are very conservative on the AI approach to avoid hallucinations. So if you can tell us a little bit how you do that, and like probably technical question, what is the limit of documents that you can add to ask questions to?
Okay.
Let's take the sources question first.
Yeah.
Only Relief Web or also Prevention Web and other sources? What are the plans?
Yeah. So I think the plans for the sources is to again, once we do the test and phase completed, once we see that this is hopefully a primitive one, we'll move to add in the sources that for the moment are relevant for the organization, which will be HDX data. We plan to start looking at the tabular thing, right? So how do we move from just documents to the tabular information? And for that, we consider to aim for HDX. We are also thinking of adding the new sources or dependent on different types of crises, like conflict, where the conflict is a major driver, like the news, and especially on sad and rapid crisis, the news is still the important piece of a source for ACAPS and I think for the community as a whole. So that's what we are aiming for. And then after we do this, I think we'll start to think about more specific sources.
Yeah, it's this developed for a very specific use case for data sets that's around severity and trying to reduce the workload there. Obviously, it can be used in a much broader use case. But again, we want to be really careful because you can really distort the way analysts work if you're not careful, if you don't give them access to everything. So we have to move. We have to first have proof of concept, and then we have to expand carefully. That's the thing. There were there's the language question. There were the technical questions from LeafWeb that I didn't quite get. I'm sure you did.
Yeah, maybe I'll start with the language question because it's easier. So for example, in my favorites folder, I have documents relevant for Colombia. And as you know, then in Colombia, this Spanish, try to find HNO not in Spanish, right? I tried, it was hard. So the way we do this, as you can see, that the text is already translated, but we can always show you the original text here in a nicely format. So if I go now to ReliefWeb, you'll see that this is the original Spanish-speaking, Spanish language text from the ReliefWeb. And for the PDFs, we also translated maybe in a less appealing form that we would like to have, because as you know, PDFs are complex stuff, right? So it's really, really, really tough to make, a jump from this into something super nicely translated in the same style. It's feasible. Our engineering team said, yeah, we can do that, but it takes us quite a while. So because it's a prototype, it's a first version of the product, and we have a limited resources at our disposal. We have to prioritize the things and the features that we do. But you can always download the original PDF file, and you can always go back to translation so that you can put the PDF file and translated text. So it still saves time, right? Because, translating this in Google Translate, could be kind of challenging. And then there was a set of technical questions. Nikos, do you want to comment on a few?
Jump on some of them. So from the PDFs, we are pulling all the text, and then we have our own custom processing of selecting which part is actually text and not a header, footer, and so forth, and so on. And then there was one part of the question was about storage.
Well, what is the limit of documents to talk with?
Limit, maybe we can talk on favorites.
Yes, so this is more related to the question about how we're making sure that we're careful with the use of LLMs and generative AI. As you can expect, the less documents you're talking with, the more accurate, the better the response you will get. And I think that for now, the way the analysts are using the search feature is that they know that the information exists in a corpus of document that they have set in their favorites. And it's just about finding that piece of text in the document that they know exists, but they can't find where in a 120-page document.
The chatbot also tells you, and this information is from this document.
It tells you the document, source, and date.
Yeah.
And link.
And that's the most conservative, really, how to say, reliable way we can find out. So you can see there was a question. And I mean, it's less, again, we tested this, right? We know that if you add AI, it becomes more nice way presented to the user because AI will give you a response and blah. But we found out that when the AI does this, sometimes, so for example, we did an experiment, and instead of people in need, we have a number for children in need that were people in need. So we thought, okay, do we want to put it in front of the analyst? No, we don't, right? Because at this point, we really want to analysts trust the system, especially at the initial phases. So we did it in this conservative way, and you can see the source of the information is coming from, and you can navigate to the source as well. So if I click here, the document from which the response is coming will be uploaded.
So in relation to that, there's a question online from Showan Chalti who says, so analysts don't have to read the whole document, you bring them the relevant part of the document. Is there a danger of losing sort of the deeper contextual understanding that you only read sort of these bits and bobs and you actually don't get the flow? Does that degrade the quality of our analysis?
Okay, good question. I think that's why this AI search is implemented with this approach of idea that it's not a free fall, right? So it's not like we have downloaded thousands of documents, we add ChatGPT window to them, and we start asking questions. That's why we have this approach that we think that the most use cases for AI search will be already asking questions to the documents that I know the questions has answer to. So let's go back to the severity index example. We have a favorite collection of documents where analysts think the PIN number is there, right? And now analysts, after some time, just want to extract this PIN number quickly. So instead of going through a 100-page HNO, the analyst can ask the question and get to the point. That's it, right? So we are not like automating the analysis, or we are not automating the answers for the analyst. We're giving the analyst a tool to be hopefully more productive. I hope this answers the question. Thank you.
Another question online is, what are the potential competitors of SOPHIA?
Yeah, it's a good question. Thank you for that. I think like SOPHIA has a bit of different worlds, right? And I mean, in a more like private sector, there are many tools that look like SOPHIA, for example, that allows you to monitor different news sources of information, right? I know Relief Web use this tool called, okay, I don't want to make them advertisement, but I know you guys use something to monitor the information. So I think like SOPHIA, you can find a bit of different things in SOPHIA. And I know that, for example, AI search might be relevant for what other organization experiment with is a bit similar as well. But the idea of SOPHIA is to put it all together and create a space for the analysts where they are empowered to do analysis, but in a way that it's not substituting the analyst at the end. So this is this is coming back to the principles, right? Solving the problem. That's why I start with these slides about like challenges that we observe. Why did we do it? So it's mostly about that. How do we address the problem? How do we measure that the problem is addressed? And how do we help people to be more productive what they do?
In the back.
So yeah, just like when you don't have the text generation, for instance, in the answer, and only provide the chunks that are like just in the answer, how do you make sure that chunks make sense and they are related? For example, if there are hundreds of documents that are loaded per query, like how the user maybe can make sure that it is like integrated instead of chunks.
Yeah, I'll take that one. So we looked at many different search algorithms that are available and that are out there, but again, it's always going back to this principle of empowering the analysts. They know what they're reading, and we make sure that they know that this piece of text exists in the document. So as long as we can trust the embedding process, and as long as they are able to read and they know that this is a text that exists, they know and they can see in a small chunk of text if that chunk of text is actually relevant to their question. And we try not to feed back to the analyst too many of these pieces of text so that it's still manageable. And if they find that they still are not able to find the answer in the small amount of chunks, then we can help them refine their search or extend it in a different direction.
And maybe again to add, I know I said this 3 times, but again, I think like I know that AI is a bit of a trend now, and you can just add AI to the title of the session and maybe increase the turnout rate for the session and stuff like that. But again, AI search is just one use case, small use case of the product, which has this encompassing goal. How do we make analysis? How do we make analysis of ACAPS and data collection? It's actually more of data collection for the moment, like easier and achievable. And we're trying to address those problems. And again, thank you for the users of our data sets, for our products who are sharing the feedback of what we are, sometimes missing in the data sets. And this also empower us to invest in SOPHIA and address those problems. So it's less of AI thing. It's more like, how do we apply those? Again, Lars Peter, thank you for those wonderful principles that we really try to implement in this product.
There's another question online, which starts by saying, so we first understands this, the 2 functions. One is a literature management platform along the lines of Zotero, which I don't know. And the second one is a more humanitarian tailored version of Perplexity. Is that correct? That's the first one.
So yes, it is kind of like Zotero. You can manage your personalized library with the humanitarian themes, the countries that you wish to monitor, the sources that you wish to monitor. And then I would say, and it goes back to the question of Daria, the AI search is not, I think, an exploratory tool. It's just I need to remember something tool, at least in the way that it's implemented today.
Then there's a second part of the same question, which is with respect to the literature management part of things. Are you going to go into, does it assist in judging the quality of the literature?
Yeah, I can. No, for the moment, we don't interfere with that. We don't provide any judgments on the quality of the documents. We just make sure that the documents that the analyst needs to be able to have in their pipeline daily, they're there. So basically, the documents are not missed, but we don't.
Are we planning to do that?
I don't think so. Unless something.
All right. There's another. I'll just take one more online, then I got 2 in the back. Can you elaborate about what the model use is on background? Is it only one for all purposes, or does each person has an individual model? I don't know what that is.
So for the AI search, we're doing everything in the cloud on AWS. So for the search itself, we're using the LLMs that are provided by the AWS platform or cloud provider. And for the themes themselves, we are using fine-tuned models, plural, based on Distilbert, Hugging Face platform models.
Good, thank you. I have 2 questions down here.
Yep. We said that the artificial intelligence is not one of the main features. So do you have any data about how the analysts use this feature?
Yeah, great question. Shall we take one more? Or
There was
do you
one
want to ask more?
back row.
Hi, it was me, Rafia Porshfari from Onja. Great work, first of all. And second, what's your ideal growth trajectory after this? What's your vision, I guess, for the next few years, and what's standing in the way? That's the most important question. How can we help you?
All right.
Yeah, so the first question was about so can you repeat the question? I think I missed it.
Yes, if you have any data, any figures about the usage of the artificial intelligence.
Yeah, great. So right now we are working with the team to, again, at ACAPS, we try to, before we introduce a product, we try to have a set of baseline metrics. Then we apply those metrics to measure the impact of the product. So we have a team who works to create the analytics unit around the platform. We don't have the actual metrics on AI search yet, and that is subject to the experiment. And we will do that in the next maybe months or 2 once we set up. And yes, the vision. I think like we are in the moment where, again, Is it stupid? Is it primitive? Okay. If we say this is primitive, I think we are considering of adding more sources like we discussed. We are considering of making the data collection process in SOPHIA more localized. So we are considering of how we can bring, I mean, we have this huge language support already. So now it's mostly drilled down to the what kind of sources we can add to the platform, and how we can integrate those sources into the platform. So I think that's a big thing we are considering. And I think the another big thing will be the working with non-textual data. So for the moment, it's mostly text data, but we are looking into the numbers as well.
And then I think there's a far broader piece, right? Because this, I think what has been great about this is we have some concrete experience now with working with AI. What does it do for us? What doesn't it do? How does it change the way the analysts think and work? But clearly, this is a deeply transformative, this big disruption we face. And if you look at the products we put out, last year we put out around 300 products, and the analysis time that went into this was between $7 and $8 million. A lot of that is reading through documents and distilling and curating and shaping some kind of a narrative. Now, if in 2 years' time the hallucinations are down, the tools are much sharper, and they will be, what are we going to do? What's the mix between human and AI? What's our role? How do we get the most cost-effective way of doing our work? What does it mean to be an organization that works with black swans, with a tool that is based on knowledge we have not? I mean, there are a lot of very hugely interesting and deeply troubling questions that we need to think about. And we're only beginning them. What I really like about this is that we're beginning that reflection, not only with our normal sort of human analyst culture in the house, but also with some real geeks, I hope you don't mind, in-house who work with AI, have hands-on, who know what a Moodle is. And that helps us answer those questions and understand what that tech is, not just some black box we can dip into and get weird results out of, but something concrete that we're working with. Right? And that's where the big step forward for me is in this. And then I think it'll change 50 times over the next 2 years. That's probably as much of a vision as we have. We have a couple of minutes left. If there are any more questions? Not, maybe I'll just ask for last reflection, Leith, or
I'd like to ask a question of the room. How many folks here have a cousin, Sophia's cousin, somewhere in your operation? You're working on it, you've deployed it. Just hands up. How many have something like that? Come on, DFS. Okay. How many of you see this and wish you have the use case, but you don't see the path? You wish you wish you had it, or wish you could tap into a service like that. And then how many folks is just not speaking, like this isn't relevant to your work, it doesn't, you don't see, right?
no ACAPS fans.
I mean, I think for us, we're really like, there were a lot of hands, folks are in this space. And it's great. Everyone's doing it, and really, I think you've taken this very interesting path, so focused on the use case. I think you guys have an incredible opportunity there, because you've got folks testing your system to deliver your core business every day, and it's just such an opportunity to kind of refine and perfect for a particular use case. You've taken some really conservative design choices. I know there's other things up there that have been much more expansive for other reasons. I think we're in this really interesting phase of everyone feeling it out. Lars, you opened by like really being pretty vulnerable about, is this the right thing? Is it primitive or stupid? Which implies, would we put this aside if there was something else? It's not clear. That's one of our questions, sort of as a donor for the whole community. Like what is the mature state, and how do we get there? How do we help everybody, or how do we all collectively say, right, we did some experimentation. This is how we're going to do it together, or alone, or whatever. We don't have answers, but I think the next year, we need to have some conversations and some coming together on that, so you guys can figure out if this is stupid or primitive, but so that everybody else can also sort of answer the same question. And we can find the best way to come forward on this. So just big congratulations. This predates some of the advances that have happened in the last year, right? Like your, work, and there's just been transformations with this, but also with the technology available. It's really exciting. But I think it also raises some of these just bigger questions about how we're exploring this space. Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming. It was a great discussion, and I'm sure we'll be here next year talking about SOPHIA 5.0 or something.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
No.